Section 2 of Ante-Nicene Christian Library, Translations of the Writings of the Fathers down to A.D. 325, by Alexander Roberts, editor. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Ante-Nicene Christian Library, Translations of the Writings of the Fathers down to A.D. 325, by Alexander Roberts, editor. The report of Pilate, the Procurator, concerning our Lord Jesus Christ, sent to Rome to Tiberius Caesar. Sent to the august Caesar in Rome. First Greek form. In those days our Lord Jesus Christ, having been crucified under Pontius Pilate, Procurator of Palestine and Phoenicia, these records were made in Jerusalem as to what was done by the Jews against the Lord. Pilate, therefore, along with his private report, sent them to the Caesar in Rome, writing thus: To the most mighty, venerable, most divine, and most terrible, the august Caesar, Pilate, the governor of the East, sends greeting. I have, O most mighty, a narrative to give thee, on account of which I am seized with fear and trembling. For in this government of mine, of which one of the cities is called Jerusalem, all the people of the Jews have delivered to me a man named Jesus, bring many charges against him, which they were not able to convict him of by the consistency of their evidence. And one of the heresies they had against him was that Jesus said that their Sabbath should not be a day of leisure, and should not be observed. For he performed many cures on that day. He made the blind receive their sight, the lame walk. He raised up the dead. He cleansed the lepers. He healed paralytics that were not at all able to make any movement of their body, or to keep their nerves steady, but who had only speech and the modulation of their voice. And he gave them the power of walking and running, removing their illness by a single word. Another thing, again, more powerful still, which is strange even with our gods, he raised up one that had been dead 4 days, summoning him by a single word, when the dead man had his blood corrupted, when his body was destroyed by the worms produced in it, and when it had the stink of a dog. After seeing him lying in the tomb, he ordered him to run. Nor had he anything of a dead body about him at all, but as a bridegroom from the bridal chamber. So he came forth from the tomb, filled with every great fragrance. And strangers that were manifestly demoniac, and that had their dwelling in deserts, and ate their own flesh, living like beasts and creeping things, even these he made to be dwellers in cities, and by his word restored them to soundness of mind, and rendered them wise and able and reputable, eating with all the enemies of the unclean spirits that dwelt in them for their destruction, which he cast down into the depths of the sea. And again there was another having a withered hand, and not the hand only, but rather the half of the body of the man was petrified, so that he had not the form of a man, or the power of moving his body. And him by a word he healed, and made sound. And a woman that had an issue of blood for many years, and whose joints and veins were drained by the flowing of the blood, so that she did not present the appearance of a human being, but was like a corpse, and was speechless every day, so that all the physicians of the district could not cure her, for there was not any hope of life left to her. And when Jesus passed by, she mysteriously received strength through his overshadowing her, and she took hold of his fringe behind, and immediately in the same hour power filled up what in her was empty, so that no longer suffering any pain, she began to run swiftly to her own city, Capharnaum, so as to accomplish the journey in 6 days. And these are the things which I lately had in my mind to report, which Jesus accomplished on the Sabbath, and other signs greater than these he did, so that I have perceived that the wonderful works done by him are greater than can be done by the gods whom we worship. And him Herod, and Archelaus, and Philip, Annas, and Caiaphas, with all the people, delivered to me, making a great uproar against me that I should try him. I therefore ordered him to be crucified, having first scourged him, and having found against him no cause of evil accusations or deeds. And at the time he was crucified there was darkness over all the world, the sun being darkened at midday, and the stars appearing, but in them there appeared no luster. and the moon, as if turned into blood, failed in her light, and the world was swallowed up by the lower regions, so that the very sanctuary of the temple, as they call it, could not be seen by the Jews in their fall. And they saw below them a chasm of the earth, with a roar of thunders that fell upon it. And in the terror dead men were seen that had risen, as the Jews themselves testified, and they said that it was Abraham and Isaac and Jacob, and the 12 patriarchs, and Moses and Job, that had died, as they say, 3,500 years before. And there were very many whom I saw appearing in the body, and they were making a lamentation about the Jews, on account of the wickedness that had come to pass through them, and the destruction of the Jews and of their law. And the fear of the earthquake remained from the 6th hour of the preparation until the 9th hour. And on the evening of the first day of the week there was a sound out of the heaven, so that the heaven became enlightened sevenfold more than all the days. And at the 3rd hour of the night also the sun was seen brighter than it had ever shone before, lighting up all the heaven. And as lightnings come suddenly in winter, so majestic men appeared in glorious robes, an innumerable multitude, whose voice was heard as that of a very great thunder, crying out, Jesus that was crucified is risen. Come up out of Hades, ye that have been enslaved in the underground regions of Hades. And the chasm of the earth was seen as if it had no bottom. But it was as if the very foundations of the earth appeared along with those that cried out in the heavens, and walked about in the body in the midst of the dead that had risen. And he that raised up all the dead and bound Hades said, Say to my disciples, He goes before you unto Galilee, there shall you see him. And all that night the light did not cease shining. And many of the Jews died, swallowed up in the chasm of the earth, so that on the following day most of those who had been against Jesus could not be found. Others saw the appearing of those that had risen, whom no one of us had ever seen. And only one synagogue of the Jews was left in this Jerusalem, since all disappeared in that fall. With that terror, being in perplexity, and seeking with a most frightful trembling, I have written what I saw at that time, and I have reported to thy majesty, having set in order also what was done by the Jews against Jesus. I have sent it, my lord, to thy divinity. End of section 2.